Hi everybody, it's Dr. Dan. I wanted to give you guys some insight on making bar charts with Excel. Now, I had a statistics professor who once told me that bar charts convey the least amount of information in the most amount of space. That may be true, but frankly, it's just what's expected when you're writing in the scientific and engineering community. So we'll use Excel to make some bar charts. And to do that, I can just use for an example, like most of you are familiar with, just measuring the bead sizes of your different size beads in BME 303L. And so I can start that by just starting with the labels. We had 14 gauge beads, we had 19 gauge beads, and we had 30 gauge beads. Okay, and I'm just going to make up some numbers to fill out. Maybe we said our 14 gauge beads were 3.2 millimeter diameter, maybe 19 gauge were 2.5, maybe 30 gauge were 1.5. And then to make the chart, you just select all that, go to Insert, and then there's different kind of charts. The bar chart one is right up here, so we just want a simple 2D column bar chart. And there's your chart. It gives you the bars, it gives you the labels. But that's not all we want to do. We also usually want to show some sort of variance on the bars, and so we do want to include error bars on these. And the way we can include error bars is if I make a new column over here, let's say this is my mean size for my beads. I also have some sort of standard deviation. Okay, and let's say my standard deviation is 0.5 there, 0.2 there, and 0.3 there, just so we can have some differences. Again, I'm just making these numbers up. So now if I want to make this, I go select my chart, and I can choose Chart Tools. I can go Add Chart Elements, Error Bars. And although it pretends like it's adding the standard deviation or standard error or whatever, that's not really what you want. You just want to do more error bar options. And instead of choosing fixed value or percentage of any of these things, like these are not what you want custom. And so you're going to specify value, and it's going to say, what do we want the value to be for the positive error bars? And for our case, because we're doing a normal distribution, the positive error bar is going to be the same as the negative error bar. So we're just going to select that area. Okay, and then the negative, we'll do the same thing, select the same exact area. And we hit OK, and you can see it made the error bars for us. And really making a bar chart is as simple as that. However, the tricky part now is making this look good, right? You want a bar chart that you can put in a paper that, again, doesn't take up a ton of space because there's not a lot of information there, but that you can also see it really well. And so some of the things I do, I'm going to delete the chart title. Usually I can go in a figure title or something. I usually delete the grid lines because I think they clutter things up. You will want to increase font size on all these things, so I'm going to right click and increase font size to something readable, like 16 point even, on both the X and Y axes. You can change size and things, drag things around. We don't need all that space, so what you can do on the space, if you go to select the bars themselves, and you go over to the series option, right? There's different series. If you click on these graph things, there's the series overlap and the gap width. Okay, and right now, series overlap doesn't really matter. You can set it to 0, but the gap width is how much gap is in between. So if we set those only to 50%, you can see it makes the bars much wider. Now, you may like that, you may not. That makes things look a little bit fat, but if you narrow these things down, you can get the bars a little skinnier. But basically, it removes some white space from in between the bars. And you do want to have some white space in between these labels, so you have to be careful not to make it too poor. But I'm going to increase this a little bit to give me a little bit of white space. The other thing you can always do is you probably want to add the y-axis. So we're probably not going to need primary horizontal y-axis, right? Because the sizes are there. We probably do need this. So if we're going to put the radius of the beads in millimeters, again, I'm going to change the font so it's big enough to see. Okay, the other thing you might consider doing is like changing some of these colors and especially changing the thickness of those things so we can see it. So if we select this and we make sure we select the paint bucket here to choose, we might make these a little bit thicker. 0.75 is a little thin. So if we make it, 1.5, that looks a little better. You might also decide that you want to make different colors for different bead sizes, which is probably pretty smart. And then if you reference, if you have other figures then you can always use like a certain color for a certain bead size. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. If you click the arrow or the bars the first time, it selects all three. But if I just want to change one color, I can select one of them. Again, I can go to this, the fill in line, and look at the fill and say I can select my color. Let's say I'll do red for this one. Okay, and then this one, I select that one, do fill. I don't know, I can choose a green color for that one. Okay, and that just, is a way you can give things style. Again, that may be too loud as far as color changes, but you can judge whatever you want as far as making things look better. So when you copy and paste this into your document, you'll have a nice looking chart. So that's the end of this video. I'm going to make one more video that shows you how to add multiple bar charts next to each other, which is something you need to do in many of your figures. It's when your data is more complex than just these three sizes.